G'day, FlossTube, Anna aka Moranalis, back with a 2023 WIP Parade. Happy New Year's everybody. It's New Year's Day here. A bit overcast and rainy, but no complaints here. That basically means it's not a scorching hot day. Although it did put a bit of a damper on the let's go play in the creek plans for today, because nobody really feels like playing in the creek when it's raining. Anyway, so it has been ages since I filmed a FlossTube again. My parents came to visit and we did a holiday in New Zealand. So I've been stitching, but the time and inclination to film such things as FlossTube has gone out the window. So I thought, rather than try and figure out where I was and catch you up, because inevitably I'm going to miss something, we'd go for the whole let's start fresh with a WIP Parade sort of scenario and just move forward. I'll fill in some of the blanks as they come to me as we go through projects, but it's just random, whatever I think of. In terms of the order of projects you'll see in the WIP Parade, it is again pretty stinking random. I'm going to have to film this in segments just because I don't want that many project bags pulled apart at one time. So I am filtering out the project bags that are kitted but not yet started for one grouping, and the projects that are not entirely UFO'd, but they're WIPs I have zero intention of working on anytime soon. They're just in my someday when the mood strikes to do pile. I'm not even going to make the claim that this is entirely complete. So I may miss something. I don't know. It's just what's sitting on my shelf. So without further ado, let's just look at the top of the pile and see what we have here. This is going to be a finish pretty soon, hopefully. I didn't bring my board. Maybe when I go through the next... Hold on, I have invisible floss in... Okay. Maybe when I go through one of the cleanup segments, I'll go find my board. She's too big for it anyway. This is Bella's Tricks from Bella Filipina Designs. So, not entirely sure when I started her. She wasn't a Halloween start, I don't think. Oh, I know. I started her when we were in COVID isolation. So that was about April of 2022. So, yeah, that was pretty fast progress. I kind of thought maybe I'd have her finished for Halloween this year, but I've started on the beading. You see some of the beading down there. She's very heavy on the beads. And so... yeah, I got distracted. I think I've beaded something else right before I started beading this, and I just needed a break from beading. So this actually probably ought to go in the not quite so buried deep pile so that I finish it off and get it off the WIP list, and you won't see it next year. That's the idea. The fabric for that was probably a 28 count cast shell. I think it was a scrap off the chatelaines, and I'm pretty sure I dyed that one myself. So I will do my best to tell you what I have, but details. This one I know is a 28 count cast shell dyed by me because it's a chatelaine, and they all fall in that bucket. This is Tinctorium, and again, we are really close to a finish. I've got that set of border, the flowers and the herbs and stuff hanging down finished. And on one of these other ones, I got another center set of flowers finished. Obviously it doesn't have the herbs in there. And I think I might have started, oh, you can just see a few little flower centers down the bottom. So when I was working on this, I thought I'd finished all the over ones until I discovered those center flowers being over ones. And that kind of killed my enthusiasm to have to tackle more over one. So progressively been working through that. Should definitely get back to that though, because again, like Bellatrix, it's really pretty close. I haven't started any of the beading on this. I beat the chatelaines at the very end. So that will be another few weeks of beading, no doubt, by the time we get through all of that. I'm clearly a sucker for beading. This one's a nice little one. We'll stick this one in. So this, these are little Satsuma Street ornaments, and there's 4 of them in the pack I bought. One's a snake. I don't know. Obviously, the owl is the only one I've finished. Mostly, I've finished the cross-stitch part of it. I have, it's got spots for beads and sequins. I'm doing these on the plastic canvas with the idea that when I cut them out, they will go on the Nightmare Before Christmas Halloween tree. So some of these, I don't intend to follow the pattern as far as the beads and sequins. I was going to do some of the stuff with the glow-in-the-dark threads and stuff so that it'll show up on Halloween night. Yeah, that's the plan. But I will have to get back to that too. And since it's nowhere near Halloween, probably not going to happen in the next 5 minutes. Also need to buy a bunch more plastic canvas because I actually want to get, you know, a dozen or more of those eventually. But it's not particularly big, high priority. This is a new start. I don't think you guys have seen this at all. So this is a new start. My eldest bought this one for me for Mother's Day last year. I don't know, it's been a while, and she was getting a bit disappointed I hadn't started it. So I thought this was my Halloween start for this year. I don't know who the artist is. She got it off Etsy, and I guess you can kind of see. I'll try and find a better picture and insert. Colors are a bit blown out. So this is basically done on a scrap of even weave fabric that just happened to be the right size. You can see I've got a fair bit of that castle done. Pattern Keeper says I'm sitting at 16% complete on that one. And a fair bit of that, like probably almost 10% of that was just done yesterday. So clearly not a big pattern. If I sat down and did it, it'd actually be done relatively quickly. It's a simple stitch. Lots of big blocks of color in there. I did notice when I put it into Pattern Keeper, the grid and the symbols are offset so that the grid lines go through the center. It's kind of annoying. If anybody has any idea how to get Pattern Keeper to just kind of shift its grid up so that it's not sitting over the top of the symbols, I would dearly love to know how to do that, if you can do it. I know at one point, and I was having troubles importing something, I was in a screen where you could kind of stretch your grids out. Couldn't find it when I was looking at it to fix that, so I don't have any clue where that's gone. So yeah, that was a scrap of even weave, 28, 32 count. I have no idea, guys. It's the same fabric I did Oliver's stocking on, and you'll see it later in a full coverage one as well. Speaking full coverage, we won't even try the board with this one. I think we're going to call that straight enough. Out of the Q-snap, so you get a full view. It's the world map. I'll insert a picture of what this one is going to look like because, yeah, you're not even halfway. I think maybe a third of the way across that pattern. Maybe almost half. I don't know. Anyway, so I took it out of the Q-snap. I had to wash it. When I took it out of the Q-snap, there was definitely some yuck, dirt, etc. in there. So I gave it a good old soak after it came out of the Q-snap. That area's come out pretty good, pleased with that. But now I'm really a bit worried about the moisture. It's dry to the touch, even where the thread is thick, but I don't really trust it. I would probably leave it out of the Q-snap for a good week just to make sure all the moisture is out of there, because I don't want anything going moldy. And I kind of wonder if that isn't what was the issue with the one spot that I had to clean. I don't know. Here's that other full coverage that is on that same even weave fabric. This is probably going to have to stand up because this is really tall. Hold on. Get the chair out of the way. Get back. So this is Aura of Autumn. It's a 3-panel thing. I'm only doing the 1 panel at the moment. It is an Artisy Leonid Afimov. And I think if I do it full height, I'm almost 2/3 of the way up that panel, I think. So this has been several years on the go at this point. It's not in a screaming hurry to finish it. All this extra fabric was to make it fit better in the Q-snap. I think at this point I've opted to not even use the Q-snap with it anymore. It's big enough squares, and with marking it off on pattern keeper, I'm doing a lot more cross-country traveling, and so the Q-snap is just in the way, more than helpful. I've got very few, if any, parked threads on it anymore. Yeah, so if I don't need to use the Q-snap, I'm not going to. This is another new start that you guys wouldn't have seen because I just started it on Thanksgiving weekend. This is Greta Goldbloom from Bella Filipina Designs. And again, I'm guessing this is a scrap of 28 count cashel from the chatelaines because I've definitely dyed it. It's meant to sort of mimic the fabric that was on the model. I can't even remember how close I got to it, but I think it will do just fine for this piece. So she's actually got a fair bit of progress on her. That skirt goes on forever. She's got a garland and a broom, obviously, to go in there. And then the usual amount of beads. So she will be with us for a little bit, no doubt, but definitely much smaller than some of the other Bella Filipinas. So if you're looking for an easy starting point and you kind of like Halloween, then, you know, she's worth giving a shot. What else have we got here? Oh, this one's actually got a tag for the fabric. So this is Sea God by Under the Sea Fabrics, 28 count. And this is upside down. Mirabilia's Shakespeare's Fairies. So, started this a year or more ago. I think this was a Mania start. Wasn't last Mania, must have been the Mania before then. Occasionally I pick it up and do a bunch on it. Really should probably do more on it. And I think that goes for all the projects out there. But yeah, again, there's no particular rhyme or reason. I just like this one, so it'll get done eventually when there's less projects and things I'm actively trying to finish soon to distract me. Another great big massive one. We have another chatelaine, and this is, oh, yeah, so this one I'm in two minds about. Looking at it, it's not too bad. So this is Chatelaine's Hawaiian Mandala. Now, for those of you who are know the the Chatelaine mandalas, and particularly the Hawaiian one, you'll notice that doesn't look anything like a volcano. Okay, the idea with this piece is that the bulk of what's represented in the Hawaiian mandala is actually very appropriate to the Townsville area, with the exception of volcanoes. That's never what I think of when I think of the local area. I think historically there was some volcanic activity in the Vague area, but it's not like Hawaii where it's all over the place. So my grand idea was to swap out those volcanoes for our local Castle Hill, which I proceeded to chart, and I've been kind of putzing to try and put some specialty stitches in so that it kind of blends a bit more with Martina's designs. I'm not sold on it, although, like I said, it doesn't look as bad as it did in my head. I've got the little saint, uni saint. I don't know that you can even see that. I can't see it in the camera. It just doesn't look a lot like Castle Hill to me. So I don't know. This is kind of sitting in I got to figure out what I want to do with it. I mean, worst case scenario, I'll pick out that hill and we'll do it as charted. So it will get finished one day. I'm just not entirely sure it's going to be the next thing finished. In fact, I can guarantee it won't be. As per all the other Chatelaines, it's 28 count, just dyed by myself. I like that. It's a nice buttercream color. All right, one more, and then I think I will pause while I rejig project bags again because I need to replenish the stash. So this is a conversion. So this is Santa's Magic, and I think it goes this way. So this is a Mirabilia, Santa's Magic. Again, I'm assuming 28 count cash out. Pretty sure I dyed this as well. The original one is done in tan colors and charted on a tan, or modeled on a tan sort of fabric. I didn't like tan, just seemed a bit boring and blah. So I've changed it to silver blue sort of colors. So you can see, I think at this point I've converted all the blues in the various places. But I'm periodically finding little motifs that I need to putz with. So like down here, I don't know, there was a motifs on a sleeve or whatever, but I did them in one color and I decided, no, I got to rip those out and change them to something else. Or maybe it's the motif that goes through the middle. Point is, it's an exercise in every time you pick it up, there's more decisions to be made. A lot of the decisions are made, but there's still quite a few to be made. And so I've got to be in the right mindset when I pick this one up to keep working on it. And so, yeah, at some point it basically got put down because I was just not in a place where I could enjoy making those decisions, and it was just driving me crazy. And the poor thing hasn't come out since. So we will have to remedy that situation at some point. Unfortunately, I don't suspect it'll be the next one pulled out, but hopefully not too long, because I really do quite like it. But that is Santa's Magic by Mirabilia. All right, so this next one I have not worked on in ages, so I'm assuming, you know, if you watched my earliest floss tubes, you probably saw it. But maybe like once or twice. It's been ages. I really should get this out and do something with it. This is an Artisy chart. I think it's just called Tropical Butterfly or something. And so this was a hand dyed by me, random scrap of linen, no idea what count it is. And the colors of the butterfly are the vibrant blue, looks like the Ulysses butterfly. So I call this my Ulysses project. Now, this is my experimental with CXC project. It's the only one I have that's kitted with CXC threads. I am way too impatient to wait for them to come from freaking China or whatever in the 6 weeks it took for these threads to get here. Yeah, I don't have the patience. When I want to go to the shop and start something, I just do it. And so it is what it is in that regard. I'm also, it looks fine when it goes in. I have not really been super happy with the actual stitching on this piece. Having said that, I have also added, because this looks like the Ulysses, I've added the blending filament, the Krynic blending filament, to give it that shimmer like you would get in a Ulysses. So I'm not overly inclined to necessarily blame the CXC part of it for the pain to stitch with aspect, because we all know what a pain to stitch Krynic is. So take that bit with a grain of salt. I can't see this coming out anytime soon. I actually think this probably would be one I should go get the digital PDF for it and put it into Pattern Keeper. I might be more inclined to stitch on it if it was a bit more obvious what I'd done and what I hadn't when you mark it off in Pattern Keeper. So yeah, I may or may not get there, but that's where that is and why I started it many years ago. I'm pretty sure I started that before the flooding, so that, you know, it was before 2019 or around early 2019. It's been a while, and I haven't worked on that in ages. In contrast, this is another one that's probably from the same era, but I just haven't actually gone and finished. So this is probably the first piece of fabric I ever dyed for myself. It was a very experimental piece. I know this is a 28 count cachot, and it's Save the Stitches. Now I have done all the stitching, I have done all the metallics. That's been done for ages. But it's been sitting in my WIP pile, trying to figure out how I wanted to fully finish it. Because a lot of these motifs have a bit of beading through them. And I thought, well, I don't want to do the beading until I know how I'm going to fully finish it. And I think at this point I've decided that I'd be better off just going ahead and doing the beading and getting it off the WIP list, and it can sit with the beads in my fully finished box with the beads on, as you know, and just be done with it. So I think that's my plan. There's relatively few beads on there, so I could probably knock it out in an afternoon if I was so inclined. I think this is the right way up as it was designed. The original pattern had like Save the Stitches or something in these two lower motifs, and I just basically repeated some of the motifs above. So that was my first experiment with blackwork. Really quite enjoyed that aspect. It was the first time I'd used the DMC metallics. Did not enjoy the DMC metallics. And it was my first effort at dyeing fabric, which I'm not super in love with it, but it worked, and it's easy to match with black. Yeah. This one needs to come out more. And the only reason this one hasn't come out more is because I've been trying to finish tinctorium. This is yet another chatelaine. Yes, for those of you who are counting, I have 3 chatelaines on the go because somebody's a sucker for large projects. This is the Tahiti mandala. So not super heat done. I got one of the blackwork turtles done, and I'm working on another blackwork turtle. And typical me, leaving that needle right in the middle of the design. In the tropics, it's a high risk policy. You'll get rust. Yeah, so this one has the over one stitching in the shells that just about did my head in until I worked out how to get those positioned, but obviously I need to repeat those 3 more times. That can be the bit of a bugger with the chatelaines, having to repeat yourself so many times. Anyway, love this mandala. Basically started it just because of those turtles are so freaking awesome. And they look awesome when you get them stitched. They're kind of a royal pest to stitch, but I mean, I often think our hobby is a bit of an exercise in self-torture, because a lot of these things look so nice when they're done and yet are such a nuisance to actually do. As per all the other chatelaines, 28 count cashel dyed by myself. I feel like I repeat that an awful lot. You notice any patterns? This was, I will have to insert a picture of what this is going to look like, because I don't think I have the, oh, it's probably over there. I'll insert a picture. This is Fairy Tale Town, Everest Arts or something like that is the name. It is a kit. So I have swapped out the kit fabric because I think the kit came with Aida and I don't stitch on Aida. So I've swapped it out for even weave since it's full coverage. And got just the tiniest start in the bottom left corner. This was purely a whim start one day circa October. Yeah, the threads and stuff in the kit are okay to stitch with. The chart is a royal bear to read. I think that's just going to be part of doing this project, is trying to psych up the enthusiasm to deal with that chart. Now, I actually think, I have a vague notion that the actual pattern is only like about that high. So I've got acres of extra fabric up here. I didn't want to cut it down until basically I knew exactly where it was going to be. I did cut it down left to right, just not top to bottom. But I've got acres of spare fabric all gobbed up here. You know, so this is going to be a very wide, but not very tall piece. I want to say, without looking at the chart, you can see the top, some purple flowers in there. I think that's about 1/3 of the height. We shall see. Another one I should pull out. The challenge with that one is definitely going to be the chart and wrangling all that extra material. So the last one, I guess I consider part of my active WIPs, although I really need to, again, suck it up and finish this one, get it off the list, is not a actual cross stitch, it's my embroidery. And so didn't pull out the book, but basically it's beach themed letters, and I've started with the A, but my plan was basically to spell the word beach and then mount those as individual tiles, you know, in a display. This is as far as I've gotten. We have one letter that's like, I'm getting down to the fancy shells and stuff. I think there's some rope stitching that needs to be done. That starfish is done. So I should pull it out. Like, I love this project, it's gorgeous. I need to go back and Google better how to make that wrapping work on the this shell here. That's what you see there is basically the underlying threads to give it dimension, not the actual finished shell that you will see when it's finished. And there's some ribs that you need to wrap around those. So I need to do some Googling and work out how to do that properly, and then repeat that for this shell. And I don't even know what I need to do for this. But it will be thoroughly gorgeous when it's done. I just need to go learn some new skills. So one day I will get there. I think that is it for everything I consider really active WIPs. Although with that tropical butterfly, the word active is a bit of a misnomer. But the next few are basically ones that I started 20 years ago. May or may not ever finish them. But eventually when the mood strikes, you know, I should finish them and get them off my list. Oh, and one of them was gifted to me. So, first one is Teresa Wentzler's Noah's Ark. So, not a whole heap done on this. You can see random little, this was my first attempt at doing over one. These little animals in a Teresa Wentzler. I went through a phase where I just absolutely loved everything Teresa Wentzler, which I still do. It looks beautiful. But they're, even for something that's relatively small, a big project. And I don't necessarily have the enthusiasm to see it through. The original intention for this was, so that's your Noah's Ark ship with all the animals around. And then I think there's an alphabet charted in the original one. My intention was basically to spell my eldest daughter's name and maybe put birth date in there. At this point, I'm not going to worry about making it a birth sampler for her. If this ever gets pulled out again, it's probably because there's some other little kid that I'm going to make it into a birth sampler for. Yeah, it's not going to be my kids. I don't think they have any interest. Well, I know Briar has no interest in seeing me finish that on her behalf. So the other one I have, this was actually gifted to me. This is, see all that empty fabric get to fill? Teresa Wentzler's Floral Bell Pull. So I forget the lady's name that started it, but she obviously finished the first set of flowers and made some good progress on the greenery for the second set of flowers. But then I think this has been gifted a couple of times until it's wound up at me. And I will finish it, I think, one day. I quite like it. The issue with this will be that, you know, whoever started it, they crossed their X's back to front from me. So I have not entirely decided whether or not I should try and match their X's or just cop the fact that, you know, there's tribute to two different stitchers and we each do it our way in the one piece. I don't know. One day I will have to decide when I pull it out. But whoever it is that started that is an insanely neat stitcher. I guarantee you my back will not look as nice as her back. This big bugger, again, falls in the I really should just suck it up and finish it category. This is, I don't even know, this is another stand-up jobby. I don't know the maker of this pattern. It was a set of 5 or 6 different patterns that all went together in a triptych sort of set. So you can see this, the center panel is clearly the main bit of the nativity. Mary, Joseph, and whatnot, and I think the other side has wise men I forget what's on the other one. Anyway, at this point, all the stitching is done, except you can see there's acres of scattered metallic starlight in there. And that's the only thing I haven't done. I should just suck it up and finish it, but I hated doing that little metallic scatter. You can see, just because they're so far apart, I have carried the threads, and so I've tried to, make it the shortest traveling path between the bits of scatter. I don't know, this one I'm really in two minds about, because I'm never ever going to frame it or display it and whatnot, and so why put up with the irritation of doing that scatter? And at the same time, it's so close, why wouldn't you? So I don't know what the answer is with that one. I'm hoping someday I will magically have some enthusiasm and maybe somebody to give it to that actually would enjoy the nativity scene, but it won't go up in our house. So that is everything that is actively started, some description. Let me go ahead and put this stuff away, and I will pull out the few kits that I have that are prepped and ready to go. Just because chances are if I do another start in this year, it's probably going to come from this next section. Okay, so apparently this is going to be a shorter section than I realized. I thought I had more kitted up waiting for me to start, but apparently not. That's probably a good thing. The first one, I will have to insert a picture of what it's going to look like because it's a PDF. But this is Pandemic, and this is the threads I picked. So this is a Hanka Silks for You PR094. I only got the one Hank, which means, kind of blends into the background well, which means I'm going to have to do it on a relatively small count, 36 or 40 or something like that, I think, in order to make the one Hank enough. I don't have fabric for this yet, so I suppose, struggle at the moment is picking the fabric that I want to do this on. That will need to get resolved before I can actually start that one. These others do have fabrics, and hold on. This first one has like 3 fabrics in its bag because I haven't made up my mind. So it's Mirabilia's Gypsy Queen. And this is the fabric that I originally bought to put her on. It is, so you see the fair bit orange on that side. It is Brigid. 28 count linen from Under the Sea Fabrics. I think all of these are Under the Sea Fabrics, so I'll just save myself repeating that. The other ones, other ones were part of the Fabric of the Month Club for Under the Sea Fabric, that when they showed up, I thought, oh, they might be really good with this one. And so rather than putting them in the main fabric stash, I've thrown them in with this project bag, and I've got to make a decision. I'm not going to open these bags. So this is Udor, more of a bluey green. This is actually the color that I was trying to get when I originally ordered background fabric for her. But the piece that did show up was nothing like this color scheme. You know, it's how it goes with hand-dyes. The last alternative that I have in here, I can't read the tag. Again, they'll all be 28 count linen, but a much deeper purple. I think this one is unlikely. It's still in the bag. Really, it's a case of, do I want that purple-orange mix, or do I want that bright sort of limey green that I had originally envisaged her on? And my guess is, I think I will do her on that bright limey green. I think that would look pretty cool. I don't know. Stay tuned. This is the other one I have kitted up. So this was Winter Geisha, a Joan Elliott design. It's the only Joan Elliott I have. And this is also in Under the Sea Fabrics, although the tag is somewhere else. I suspect this might be another piece of that sea god that Shakespeare's Fairies is done on, because I realized I could make this piece do both projects. This is the one that I originally bought trying to get that real limey green. And obviously you can see it's a lovely, lovely teal green, but it's not limey at all. So that is what I've picked for Winter Geisha. Having said that, until it started, as per always, I reserve the right to change my mind. Now I need to figure out, okay, that pile goes without. So that's all I have for stuff that's half likely to be started in the immediate future. So nice and short and sweet. I do have a little bit of random haul that showed up when my parents came to visit. So if you give me a minute, I'll just go grab that. So this should be relatively short and sweet as well. Occasionally when I find things on the Stash Unload websites, particularly if they're US based, I'll have them sent to my parents' house rather than worry about shipping to Australia. And so both of these fall in that boat, and my mom basically just brought them with her when she came to visit. So there are a couple of butternut road patterns. That's his Earth Dancer. And Spirit Dancer. So I don't know that I will start/finish them anytime soon. I think they will just go in the someday bucket. But yeah, someday when it appeals, we will start that. So the other thing that showed up is my Under the Sea Fabrics Fabric of the Month. And again, shipping is a pain in the butt. Leslie basically sends 3 months at a crack just to try and limit the amount of shipping going on. So this is Hanami, and it's kind of a pink with grays in it. Sorry, I'm not going to take these out of the bag because then they get a pain to start. It's kind of a greeny gray. Yeah, the colors are not going, the bag's not helping. No idea what I'll put on that, but you know, it'll get used eventually. There's Proserpina, which is a much more neutral sort of brown. I think umpteen number of things could go on that. See, all of these will be 28 count. I was just debating whether or not I could put Pandemic on one of these, but they're all going to be 28 count. So even if the fabric is big enough, it's not actually going to be big enough. And this one is Scylla, Scylla, and more of a bluey gray. So I reckon that'd go well on a Halloween piece. It's actually, there's a bit of green. The camera's showing very, very gray, but there's actually a very sort of dark greeny gray to it. Not sure what I will put on that piece, but I guarantee you I will find something exciting eventually. So I think that's about it for me, guys. It's probably going to take me ages to edit this because now I got 5 different segments and I got to find images to glue things in. So I'll try and get it up before I have to go back to work. But that's about it for me. I will talk to you guys all next time. See ya.